Have you noticed that your worldview and your lived reality is never static? They're constantly changing, and our subjective conscious experiences are indeed highly malleable. But that opens up exciting possibilities for personal growth and development. It means we can consciously choose to learn, explore, and engage with new perspectives. It means we can actively shape our experiences and ultimately create a life that aligns with our highest values. In fact, embracing a lifelong spiritual journey of learning and practice makes positive change and personal growth almost inevitable. Ardent spiritual seekers often have profound mystical experiences that fundamentally reshape their perception of reality, which leads to a strong connection to the divine and feelings of peace, joy, and purpose. Such sudden transformations are well documented and are even reflected in the ancient Greek notion of catharsis, which is a process of releasing pent-up emotions or psychological tension that results in purification, spiritual cleansing, and remarkable transformation. And as I've said before, I believe in the power of personal transformation because I've witnessed it in myself and in others. Which raises the question, just what are we doing here? I mean, what's this channel all about? In my last two videos, we learned all about the power of the unconscious mind and the importance of purifying negative karma and harmful mental impressions. And since the beginning, I've been encouraging you to cultivate the holy virtues, to forgive others and yourself, and to let go of your attachments and develop greater self-awareness. But why? I've been encouraging you to follow a spiritual path, but what's the purpose? What's the underlying logic of following a spiritual path? I mean, what's it all about? Well, I'll tell you. It's about setting yourself up for a remarkable personal transformation. It's about establishing the conditions that are conducive to awakening to your true self and what the Tibetans call your natural state. Tibetan Buddhists believe that enlightenment, what they call Buddha nature or Buddha mind, is our natural state. It's the way we're all supposed to be. Everyone actually has Buddha nature within them. In other words, all of us are already enlightened, we just don't realize it. Wisdom, compassion, and non-dual awareness, they're not acquired from the outside. They're actually dormant within us, waiting to be discovered. It's like Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is found within. It's like we're sitting on a pot of gold without realizing it because it's covered up. This means that our default state of living with an egoic sense of a separate self is actually an unnatural state, because it means that we're mired in attachments and mental defilements and selfish pursuits and a whole host of emotional and intellectual obscurations. And as we've discovered in many previous videos, the ego is just a temporary mental construct. It's a conceptual framework that arises from ignorance and clinging and self-grasping. And it's the root cause of our suffering. This is what's covering and obscuring our inherent Buddha nature. It's our attachments to desires, possessions, and our belief in a separate self that keeps us from realizing our true nature. Similarly, mental defilements and harmful emotions like jealousy, anger, and pride, they distort our view of reality and block our innate wisdom. They prevent us from realizing the truth of our own divinity. So our job on this earth is to deliberately pave the way for personal transformation, to bring about ego transcendence, and to awaken to our true self. It's our highest calling, and anyone can do it if we'll diligently apply ourselves. If you have been following my YouTube channel since the beginning, then you may have noticed that what I've been doing is rather systematically outlining a complete path to enlightenment, a spiritual journey that leads to awakening. We began by establishing the proper mental attitudes and making a commitment to the path. Then we worked at cultivating and integrating holy virtues into our daily lives. This focuses our attention on our behavior and on our emotional reactions, so we become more and more likely to notice situations in which we fail to live up to our professed ideals. This gives us something to work on within ourselves and forces us to pay attention to our inner subjective experiences. We begin to develop concentration and mental focus. We begin to introspect and become more and more self-aware. And when we act virtuously, we build what the Tibetans call merit, or positive karma. Acting with compassionate, warm-hearted, loving kindness toward all beings gradually breaks down the egoic self by focusing our attention on the well-being of others. So many of the virtues serve a dual purpose: selfless service, patience, forbearance, empathy, forgiveness. They all shift our attention away from selfish concerns by emphasizing the well-being of others. Thus, an altruistic focus weakens self-centeredness and egoic defilements. But that's not all. Forgiving others is a crucial step in letting go of our grudges and our resentments, while self-forgiveness cleanses burdens such as guilt and shame. When we actively forego our egoic attachments and aversions, when we let go of our wants and fears, and when we begin to develop wisdom by understanding the foibles, hang-ups, and habits of the ego, then we make even further progress. When we uphold ethical conduct through virtuous actions, we slow the creation of negative karmic imprints, and we begin to remove layers of obscurations. When we learn to master our anger, envy, and other negative emotions, we begin to develop a disciplined self-awareness. And when we seek divine forgiveness for our past transgressions and misdeeds with genuine regret and remorse, promising never to commit them again, we release ourselves from hidden shackles and we begin to train the mind. All of these spiritual practices, when we integrate them into our daily lives and make them the focus of our lived experiences, well, they purify our unconscious minds, they eliminate negative karma, and they alter the deeply ingrained underlying foundations of our habitual reactions, shifting them from negative to positive. By training our minds, we're quite literally reprogramming our unconscious, the inner well springs of our lived experiences and our realities. Spiritual practices clear away negative samskaras and cultivate positive ones, fundamentally shaping the very foundations of our perceptions and our lived reality. When we live morally upstanding and authentic lives that are aligned with our highest ideals, when we cultivate virtuous and wholesome mental states, when we speak honestly and truthfully, when we're kind, generous, and humble, and when we learn to focus our minds through meditation, when we develop self-awareness through non-judgmental mindfulness in the present moment, then we're on the royal road to realizing our innate divinity, the Buddha nature that resides within us all. Then we're on the path to recognizing our true face and to claiming our true birthright. This path encourages us to develop inner wisdom, ethical conduct, and a disciplined mind. It emphasizes empathy, compassion, and living in harmony with ourselves and the world. This path opens our minds and our hearts, allowing us to ultimately reach our full potential for awakening and liberation. This path allows us to relax and rest easy in the present moment and strengthen our mental clarity and our discernment. This is the path that leads to greater clarity, true happiness, and ultimately liberation from suffering. It leads to a deep, unshakable inner peace and lasting fulfillment. It allows us to break free from the limitations of the ego and attain a state of pure consciousness and bliss. It means awakening to the true nature of ourselves and to reality. For the past year, I've outlined a powerful framework for cultivating the necessary conditions for awakening to the true nature of ourselves and to reality But the rest is up to you. Only you can walk the walk. As you practice ethical conduct and develop mental discipline, you will weaken the grip of the ego and transcend the false sense of a separate self. Wisdom and mindfulness will help you see through the illusions of separation and duality. You will begin to see how the self and other, subject and object, are ultimately interrelated and interdependent. This path ultimately leads to the cultivation of present moment awareness through meditation. This will allow you to bypass the mind's constant grasping and conceptualizations and directly experience the underlying oneness of existence. When you experience the interconnected oneness of all things and rest in the unified field of awareness, your suffering will naturally come to an end, the virtues will spontaneously manifest in your life, and you'll discover the true causes of joy and happiness. That's what we're doing here, but that's also when the real work begins, because the journey never really ends. So far, we've only laid the foundations for a spiritual journey. There's much more to come, so I invite you to stay tuned, subscribe to the channel, and join me on this profound journey of self-awareness. Sign up to receive occasional emails by visiting the website at josaonline.com, where you can also download a free chapter from my upcoming book. You can also follow along on Facebook and Instagram. All the links are in the description below. Well, thanks for watching, and thank you for your support. I'd like to leave you with the following thought. Conscious awareness itself is the greatest mystery, and it's the greatest of all miracles. So please, learn to relax and pay attention.